Hello YouTube, welcome to yet another video of Essence of War this week in what we're calling and dubbing Essence of War Week as we tease ahead of next week's release. Of course, Essence of War being the introduction game, but we'll get into that because I am
We
here
will.
with, as always, Hyper G.
Don't forget me. Yeah, I'm playing too. Oh, I love this game. I can't wait for it to come out. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, and blessed enough to be with Calcathin as well.
Hello, nice to be with you. It's a
No,
pleasure.
thank you ever so much for coming along. Obviously, a lot of our stuff has been with Pitelio, who is your co-star. Do we give him that much credit?
It's my boss. Let's call it the boss.
Okay, all right. We'll call him boss, but of course, the one that actually does all the work. We've got Calcathin on, and we're very pleased to have that. Our aim today is to look at, as you can see from the screen, the Essence of War book that's coming out next week. And for anybody that's not maybe seen our videos or not seen the videos in the past, do you want to give an introduction of what Essence of War is to Ninth Age?
Sure. So, first of all, it's meant to be an introductory game into the Ninth Age. So, like pre-made armies for the very beginnings in the basic mode, just to get someone who hasn't played before be able to play a game, see what it is, experience rank and file games with the core or the essence, let's say, of the fantasy battles rules stripped at the very minimum, just to get someone onboarded. And then we've got the advanced mode, which introduces more like army list building. Your characters can buy some of the enchantments. They can choose some magic. So basically, more going towards like it would be a middle step
Sure.
with fantasy battles. And that's where also people from fantasy battles may find it interesting as yourselves to just have a simpler and smooth games, but still having the ability to build some of your rosters. So
Yeah, very much
that's what
so.
it is. It's meant to be something quick, fun, and I'm not looking for a lot of rules complexity there, just to have some fun.
Yeah, and I think on that, obviously looking up, and you mentioned the basic patrols. They're all on one page. So for a whole army, you have most of the rules within that. Obviously, you've got the game rules beforehand but it's heavily condensed rules. And then you've got
I
the
think we lost Lucky
army.
Sixes.
I think we lost Lucky Sixes there, didn't we? Yeah.
Oh,
I was. We were both pausing just in case.
okay.
Oh,
Am I back? Am I
yeah, we
back
lost
at
you
all?
mid-sentence there, so you have to edit that one out. But you're back.
No, that's all right.
You
I'll
were
just
saying patrols, and then
yeah,
we
yeah,
lost.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll just do my questions again. That's fine. Cool. And actually, on that, you mentioned the patrols and the how easy the game is, and in terms of less rules. The patrols, as you can see from the screen, we've got Infernal Dwarves up here, but the patrols side of it, they're all on one page. You've obviously got the background rules to the game itself that are heavily condensed for a wargaming game, that's for sure. But in terms of the army, the patrols just have on one page.
Yes, the idea is that it's not just the patrols. When you look at the basic rules of the game, you also can see that some of the phases, like magic phase, it's one page.
Yeah,
We try to keep it, and it's a deliberate intent to condense the core into one or a double-sided page. It's the same for the patrols. We wanted something like you can look at it, even if you have never played that army before, if you're new or if you come from fantasy battles, you have a look at it and, oh, yeah, that's simple. It's that. Assemble some models, just get a game. So it's really basic. Even in that sense, in the basic rules, we don't have model rules. Like, for example, fighting extra rank, you would not find it in these basic rules. You get them later in advance. So
yeah.
you get the rules written in the patrol. Everything you need is in one page. Nothing
Really
else.
cool.
You need to consult anything else. Just obviously know the rules, having read them. But yeah, that's the deliberate intent.
Yeah, and so that's the introduction bit, and then obviously you get onto the advanced rules, which again you've sort of mentioned there, and that's given you the army list options and a few extra rules as well, trying to get into that next step, as you've said.
Yes, we try to distill the flavor of an army and summarize it in a few set of rules, usually 6, 7 rules that fit in less than a quarter of a page, because the other 3/4 are for all the units and the profiles, or all condensed again in one single page, just to be able to see it quickly. Of course, one of the most requested features is that we add more units for more flexibility.
Absolutely.
But we're going to get into that, I think, into this call, because we are starting to work into what we call alternative army lists, and you got to play with one of those earlier before with the Pearl Navy.
We did.
Yes, very lucky,
and,
very lucky.
Yeah, this is where we would love to focus on the next months, to be able to offer every single faction at least a secondary list.
Amazing.
That facilitate like 2 versus 2 games, or just give more units that you can combine into something bigger.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing, again, I guess going along the same lines, is you introduce the idea of adept versus master. So like rather than just having spells, you've got the pick of whether you upgrade him, and same with items as well, with the idea to add that. So you haven't just
Grimoire
got
and the Vault.
Yes, Grimoire
just
and Vault. Perfect.
To touch this nice point of all of those who like fantasy battles, we know we like to customize our lists, and Premage is good for those who are initiating, or if you really just want to get an extremely quick game. But the next step, having some of those options there, is good. At the same time, keeping the simplicity. So, for example, you know that at the start of the game, you cannot choose spells, in the sense that Apprentice gets the spell number 1, Adept gets the spell 1 and 2, Master gets the spell 1, 2, 3, and every Path of Magic has only 3 instead of 6 spells. So this is the type of simplicity tried to build in there. If we added the full Path of Magic, then you suddenly start to have more and more complexity. It's difficult to draw the line, but that's why not just one of us is the beauty of this is that it is a team, and sometimes you think something, but then Idum or Veil or Axiom has another point of view, and the result is better than the sum of the parts. So if it was
very well said,
done by just one person, it wouldn't be as good as it is. Not at all.
Yeah. So speaking of your fellow team members, you've mentioned a few names there. It's very much a project of love that you've all worked on together, really, isn't it? Over a decent period of time to come to this final product. And I mean, I'm highly complimentary of this final product. But I mean, you've been working on it for over a year, probably longer. Really?
More than that. I think it's at least my Veil of the Ages is even more than that, because he was from the beginning when it transitioned from the quick starter.
Yes.
I think it's been 2.5 years for me, because the first year we were bringing it into the first alpha version, where we had the basic mode completed. Then I think it's 1.5 years ago, by around March, April last year, we released the beta version, which had all the army list. That was a huge work. Vale and myself spent so many hours on that. Of course, also all the
rest
team,
of the team.
Since
Absolutely.
we had to do also some of the layout tasks just to get that out. We burned a little bit, to be honest. So we decided to take a little bit of I'd like to say a well-earned rest. Off.
Absolutely.
After that, luckily during that period, Idum also did fantastic job to keep progressing, especially in the play testing side of things, because beta was in many cases things that hadn't been thoroughly tested. We wanted to hear the feedback from the community, but also to allow us time to properly test the different combinations. And Idum and Axiom also did a great job on that. And we used all that input once Francesco and myself came back with renewed energies. We used that to then produce this final version. So yeah, it's been a long journey. It's for Francesco, I think it's 3 years or more. For me, it's 2.5. And it doesn't have to stop there. We have energy. We want to keep improving it. And then with 3.0 coming in from Fantasy Battles, we are in touch with the design teams and seeing how it's shaping to see which direction we will need to bring Essence of War. But for now, it's been an intense experience, but very, very rewarding at the same time. It makes you feel proud when people enjoy the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, you really should be proud. I mean, we love it, and there's plenty more people out there who do as well. But dare I ask, what's your army? You know, in essence, you know, or otherwise, you know,
My
what?
army.
Yeah, what do
I'm
you
not
play
allowed
mostly?
as a designer.
Oh, that's a very tactical answer. Very good.
No, I'm not allowed. And if I'm frank, for example, you or most people would know that I'm Highborn Elves.
Boo, boo, boo. Yeah, fair enough.
But actually the first army list and patrol for Highborn Elves, I didn't do it. So I
Ah.
was involved
Trying to stay
in many of
impartial.
the other ones, but precisely because of being so much involved with the Highborn Elves,
Yeah, yeah.
my past, it's the main army I collect. I thought it was good that it was at least the first draft and versions that it was done by someone else, and then be able
Mhm.
to give my input and then refine it from there,
Yeah.
just to not feel biased or something like this.
Yeah,
In a product like this, once one has been involved in all the aspects of it, you really cannot have a favorite
yeah.
because it's not fair. And if you want to deliver a good product that is enjoyable for everyone, it's not fair to look at it on some armies more than the others. I know Highborn more than the other armies because of the context, but that doesn't mean I want to make it any more powerful or richness than any
Yeah.
other army. And actually, I've tried quite the opposite to make sure that for this army, I got a lot of input from other people just to make sure I was not being biased in any way.
Yeah.
That's a very good answer. That is, I mean, you know, well done you. Because I know that if I was ever involved in a project like this, you know, my favorite armies would absolutely be biased. So yeah, nice one, nice one.
Now,
Yeah,
once you are with a product from all sides of it, is you want
yeah,
to make sure it's good from all angles, right? So
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and for example, one of the army lists we spent quite a lot of renewed energies was, for example, the cultists, because we
Okay.
realized it was not the only army, but when you look at the previous version of the cultists, was like, yeah, no, it's really not good.
Really
And
weak. Yeah.
because we had to do so much work on the previous version, but then we look at the cultists and we say, how can we make them feel more like they are or they are meant to be once, and we started reviewing some of the background that's been published for them, looking at the army, make sure we understood it well. And even if it's a supplement, that doesn't make it any less adequate to put the attention. And also for Demon Legions, we decided to have another look, make sure they had a more focus on their spelling or on their magic
Yeah.
adeptness. So we decided to give them more of the repeatable speed of infinity and more options just to make sure they were able to throw more dice at it. Just not, we cannot represent all the aspects of an army. Sometimes we have to say, okay, which one do we choose? And for
Yeah.
Demon Legions, this magic adeptness was not as well reflected previously as probably is now. So that's the different areas we've tried to look for all the armies to make sure that they had some kind of flavor and theme going on with them.
That's
Yeah.
very cool.
And speaking of, I guess, on the cultists and the idea of the extra armies, obviously this is coming out with all the 16 armies, and then you're choosing to do what I'm touting as the auxiliary extras, but I'm sure I'll have a better name, quite
So
frankly.
this is one of the things that will come a bit as a surprise for those that have been following the Essence of War discussion threads in the forum, because in the pre-release version, we've had the 16 main factions as well as the 4 army supplements.
Yes.
Now, what we want to make sure is that the product we release as the final version is something we don't need to touch. And
Yeah.
by that, meaning anyone who wants to print the good quality option doesn't feel pissed off some months down the line when suddenly we start changing things. And because we want to be able to add supplements to each of the armies, what we've decided to do is that the main book is going to have the 16 main factions. And then on the 18th, we're also going to publish a supplement. Francesco likes to call it a living expansion. This way,
Nice.
this is where we're going to have the 4 supplementary armies, supplements that we have. And we also look to include there the Legions of Sin, the Cult of Everman, as well as supplementary army lists for each of the other factions. And we wouldn't be able to do this if we hadn't done that split, or it would be a little bit more awkward. Why do we have cultists in the stable book, and then when we release Legions of Sin, why is that supplement not included? So we were debating quite a lot, and at the end, that's the decision we've taken, and it's part of the reason why we've needed this couple of extra weeks, because to make sure the product is still good quality, but taking out from it from of the army list and being able to share it in a supplement, it takes a bit of time.
Yeah, of course. And I think that sort of is a testament to the Essence of War idea, in that they want to scale it down and be simple, and it does do that, but it also has its own complexities, right? So and as much variety, almost as the real game, in terms of like the scale of it, to be honest. Because like if we talk about points and things like this, for example, it's about 1,600 points is a average advanced game.
It's a good, it's one of, let's say, the preferred sizes. To, of course, anyone can choose to play a bit less, more than that, but this is, we usually want to make sure that at this army size things are working as intended. So for example, at that army size, you wouldn't be able to field for any army, if I'm not mistaken, any core with just one unit. So at 1.6k, you need to field at least 2 units. And if you want to field the biggest block, then you're going to be investing quite a lot more in core than what you would have done with 2 medium units. You don't have that situation if you go below the 1.6k, and that's fine. It's lower games, and then you can do it. But at 1.6k, we want to make sure you use at least 2 core units, so it gets more the rank and file aspect that we all like from the game.
Yeah, I really like just the way that the cleverness behind all the decisions that have been made, like that building your army in the advanced game is so well done, and it's so well presented, and yet it doesn't feel like you're restricted at all, and you're still getting that flavor of the army itself. I think it's fantastic. I mean, you know, I could write lists all day just playing advanced, and that's a real testament to Essence of War generally, because, you know, you shouldn't feel like you're getting less of a version of the full game by going down to Essence. I don't think you do. I think you get almost as good of a versatile game in itself, which is, you know, testament to the work that's gone into it, really.
One of the things we wanted to preserve, as mentioned, is this rank and file aspect. So by changing a little bit how you build this in Essence of War Advance, the army composition, for those that don't know it, is that you can take up to 50%, so half of your army, of characters and support unit. And support unit is always a single model. So if we didn't do this in a normal, for example, in fantasy battles, you could have up to 40% of characters, but then you could start investing in single models, and you can get in a situation where you have 25% of core, and then everything else is single models. And we didn't want that. We wanted to make sure that the remaining 50%, the minimum mandatory 50%, is rank and file units.
Yeah, it's very clever. I mean, you know, I know Lucky Sixes, you've had fun picking your highborn elf list. I had similar fun with my orc.
Well, it's the best army, right?
He's not allowed to say. He said he's not.
I'm trying.
What are you asking?
No, yeah, we're very, very good. And I do like, because as you say, the idea behind it is a really nice introduction to the main game, and I quite like some of the rules. And even if you look at, say, the vault of the items and things, they have an item like battle standard, for example, to get around adding that complexity into every army in the game. But it's just a simple rule that can be added to the items of the characters that then allows you to introduce that rule for the bigger game. So
if and when you're ready for it,
I'm a big fan of how almost you get around the complexity by having the same rule there, and having it in in the army
We,
books
we, we tried to
somehow.
align. Some of the bolt items were a bit different
Mm.
in the previous version. So we, as much as possible, we've tried to make sure the items we had there were immediately recognizable for anyone who is downscaling from fantasy battles.
Yeah.
There is some exceptions we needed to do them, and that's usually things around banners, as you've seen, and discipline, because discipline is very punishing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so many Essence games, discipline has been the deciding factor in why I've lost.
And it could be worse. So we were okay, let's say, to accept some deviations from fantasy battles just to make it less punishing. The core rules are the same, but for example, we allow a VSB on a wizard.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
at small point battles, you cannot field a general and a wizard and a VSB.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
absolutely.
It's two small points. So something's got to give, and we wanted to make sure you cannot take it on the general. So it's not general plus
Yeah.
main plus
Yeah.
wizard. So at the end, that's the compromise we reached. And also, since units cannot get banners, you will see that there is a couple of banners there that get an aura range instead of just being for the unit. That's
Yeah.
also something that we discussed quite a lot internally, and it was like a workaround to make sure that since banners can only be taken by characters, that they were not forced to go in a unit. They could affect something around.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fantastic in that front.
It's just very clever.
So in terms of moving forwards, I guess with Essence of War, you've releasing the full book, the main book, and then the supplementary. And will the supplementary be constantly added to as the army books come on? And how will that work for the future of Essence of War?
So we've got two priorities. One is multiplayer rules, and the other one is alternative army list. Call it supplement or just alternative, because in fantasy battles, not every army, actually quite a few of them only have formal supplements. On the multiplayer rules, that's something that will come as a surprise, and many will just realize of this through this video, that the other reason we've taken a little bit of extra time and is for adding some light multiplayer rules. We look to develop those further later on, but at the very minimum, give a comprehensive and simple set of rules that if anyone wants to play a 2 versus 2 or a 1 versus 2, some experienced player alongside a non-so experienced player can team up together and help to learn the rules, having a guidance on how we believe is a good way to play multiplayer games. So that's going to be included in the upcoming release on the 18th. And then in this living expansion document that we mentioned before, the separate, we will have the initial 4 supplements. So cultist, Makar, as glanders and goblins, as well as the new ones we will develop. We will be having there the alternative army list that you've played with, Tom.
Yes, I'm very privileged.
Navy, naval-based highborn elves. There might be some other surprises in there, and the idea going forward is to focus on the pending supplements. So Cult of Erremand, Dreadfleet, Legions of Sin, and then look to provide for every main faction at least one. It doesn't mean it can only be one, but at least one alternative army list, whether that exists in fantasy battles or not. But the idea is every army has some sub-themes going on with them that are kind of easily identifiable, and that's what we try to do. And for example, orcs and goblins, we may decide not to have one, but rather two, one focused on orcs, the other one focused on goblins. We've not taken a decision on those, but those are ideas that we have in mind, and we will look to implement. And having this living expansion document is going to allow us to release it there without having to wait, let's say, 1 year and then suddenly drop all those in there and get feedback from the community. So that's what we're looking to do. And also from a multiplayer rules, we're probably going to be giving it some additional thought about alliance rules, things like that. That's not going to be there in the 18th. It's going to be a simpler set, but that's also something we may want to expand to, having different deployment rules, like, or a 1 versus 1 versus 1, like players, but not teaming up. These kind of things are all ideas we have, and we would love to be able to develop it. question mark though is how will that fit with the 3.0
Of
works?
course.
That's also meant to happen because we would want to make sure that it's time for this, and there is some discussions going in. We wouldn't want to do it probably at the very beginning once the core fantasy battle rules will still be possibly having some changes or evolving. We need to see exactly. We're working with Jugin and the rest of the designers to understand what would be the appropriate time for all of this. And in the meantime, we're taking the opportunity just to release a lot of extra flavorful content and just to make the game better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
And if you want a slice of that ahead of the release of Coalition Armies and stuff, go check out the previous battles where you've seen 4 800-point armies, 2 and 2, go up against each other. And yes, High Elves is one of
We
them.
had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So in terms of, again, that gives a good scope of what Essence of War stuff has to offer in the future. If you are watching this and you want to get involved, perhaps just a little bit more than just giving feedback, is there anything else that people can do or anybody to search for to help you guys out?
At this moment, what we appreciate the most is feedback. So
Sure.
we've always embraced and been open to the ideas that have been shared in the Essence of War threads. So definitely anyone who wants to have a say, share your opinion, share the games you've played, go into the Essence of War section within the Ninth Age forum. And there is many cases where a suggestion given from the community has ended up being implemented. It was pointed out to us when we released, for example, in the pre-release, there seemed to be some inconsistency in between the Raptors, the Pegasus, when they were mount versus when they were in the Dread Knights, and that for some players it didn't seem to make a lot of sense. That it was this inconsistency, and we had a look at it, and we changed this. From the playtesting feedback, that's also driven a lot of the improvements, I might say, that we've released. So in the new rules, you can pivot and advance. So the movement of the units has come closer to single models, so that at the end of the day, we had to choose whether not to have swift reform or have it. The previous version had chosen not to. Now in this version, we have chosen to. So even for shooting units who don't have stand and shoot, at least now they can pivot and shoot. There is some things that we wanted to improve there. Magic is also something that while it worked at basic level. Sometimes it gave the reactive player a sense of frustration when you had a 5 versus 2 magic dice phase, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do? And it didn't sell very well into the larger games. Edom has done a fantastic job in there. The new rules we have, Edom from the team has been the largest contributor to getting those in, and we also believe this is a good improvement. Something that the players don't know from the pre-release, and they will see in the new release, is that now you're going to be able to store magic dice. Before you couldn't, so now there is a little bit more tactics there. Ooh. It helps in the basic games. If you have 6 dice and you can only throw 5 at a spell, you can store 1, and then you're going to be able to have a more powerful phase later on. And also the dispelling player no longer can throw as many dice as it wants to stop a spell. It's also limited at 5. Again, this is to make sure that both basic and advanced work in a way that it feels more balanced. So some things that even from the pre-release people will get to see and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're a testament very much actually to how the rules have evolved, because we started off way back when, years ago, and playtesting and things like that. So seeing how the rules, and maybe because of feedback, like model unit consistency, especially in the patrols and stuff like that, it's been really cool. And it's really cool to be a part of. So if you do want to go check, give us some feedback and give it a play test, do it. Go on the forum and check them out.
If you like vampire counts, stay tuned, because they are getting a new mount. and it's a big mount.
Oh, exclusive. We got it. No, it's
Awesome.
great.
One of
Yeah.
the 60 times 100 millimeters mounts. That's going to be
Ooh.
available
Do
in
you
the
reckon if we
final.
just like leave you to talk, you'll tell us? No, it's great. And yeah, we've absolutely loved having you on, and thank you very much for giving that introduction to it and everything. And I'm glad we're glad you're back.
Yeah.
Pleasure that you gave me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the work we do. It's appreciated.
Amazing. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Right around the corner now.
So as always, do go check us check all the forum stuff out. Essence of War, it'll be as a download as well. And like, share, subscribe, put in the comments to this video and any other Essence of War video anything you have about the game, because we do pass it on, and we speak to yourself and Piteglio, etc, etc. So like, share, subscribe, check everybody out, go chat to everyone, play test the game because it's great. Until next time, see you later.